that these some very serious things that's going on in the world today, some very atrocious criminal acts that's being supported by the Zionists and the ultra enemy of the oppressed peoples of the world, the Shaitanic resort. The American government is behind all. They created ISIS, they created Al-Qaeda, and the Zionists. Even when Obama, I'm telling you the truth, it was in the LA Times paper, that when Obama, when he was running for president, he had a big meeting with all the black leaders in Atlanta, Georgia. If anyone knows the history of the black people in America, Atlanta, Georgia is like the Mecca for the black people in America. Anyway, he had a big meeting there, and he called all the black leaders together. And he said, my mission in running for president is to, because he said there's a dichotomy between the Jewish people and the black leadership. And he said, my job is to bring all the black leaders together to support the Jews. So anyone is under the illusion that Obama is helping any oppressed people in the world, they're suffering, that he's just a puppet in the hands of the Zionists, period. Matter of fact, he was asked, what did he think about reparations for the 50 million black people in America now? We built America. It was built on the backs of the 6 to 7 million black slaves. We built America. And he said, he do not support this. Matter of fact, if you read a book called Protocols of the Elders of Zion, it points out to you, the Zionists, they appointed every president from George Washington all the way down to Obama. His father was a CIA agent, his mother was a CIA agent, he is a CIA agent himself. So you can expect nothing from these people. I remember one statement that Imam made that he said that even if the American government accepted Islam, he would fight against them because he knew that it was just like Muawiyah, when he said he accepted Islam when they held the Quran on spears. But anyway, I want to give you a brief background of my work. Alhamdulillah, brothers that's working with me and sisters in our community. That a very great historical event took place in the history of the black people in America in 1992, when two American government, they say gangs, we call them tribes. Just like you had tribes in Medina, the Al-Aus and the Al-Khazraj, that the Holy Prophet, he had to leave Mecca to go to Medina because Allah said, if you don't leave, they will assassinate you, and he had Imam Ali to sleep in his bed. So those two tribes, Al-Aus and Al-Khazraj, he united them, just like we're doing in LA. When Allah blessed us in 1992 to get these were the most violent gangs in America, in the Watts community. These were the two Bloods in the Crip gang, tribes. They were the most, they used to call Watts Little Beirut, Lebanon. And it took 14 years to get them mobilized on the right path to stop this fratricide. And they spread it across LA, the state, spread it across America, all the way up into Europe. Even Danny Glover, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, Denzel Washington, all of them came to Watts and say they support this peace movement. Even Oprah Winfrey, they invited two brothers that helped me to get it mobilized. She invited them on her show to let the world know how this came together. Also in 1983, I was in Islamic Republic of Iran and I met with Rafsanjani. I asked them to form an international human rights committee to bring our plight before the United Nations to charge the U.S. government with genocide and violating the human rights of the 40 million blacks in America. It was 40 million at that time. And I asked Rafsanjani, I had a private meeting with him in the parliament when he was the parliament speaker. And he said, I'm going to help you form this committee, and I promise you. I said, Rafsanjani, should I talk to Khomeini, the president of Iran? He was the president at that time. He said, when you have talked to me, you have talked to the president. So he confirmed that they formed it. I got the document right here. And this is, if Iran wants the support of the black people, I don't bite my tongue, I can't be bought. If I wanted to be bought when the troops organized, Maxine Waters, she's a congressman, she come to me and said, whatever you need, I'll help you. She's on the banking committee in Washington, D.C. I could have got millions. Some people around me got millions. One sister here, I won't tell her name, but her son, they gave $3 million. Grant money from the city. I could have made multi-millions of dollars. But I'm not a sellout. They know I support the Islamic Republic of Iran. All of my work, and I've been neglected here in America by the Muslim groups, all of my work by Allah is my witness, was to get these brothers and sisters mobilized, because they can mobilize America. The people I'm working with can mobilize the blacks throughout America. By now we should have at least 1 million Shia. I'm not putting the Sunni brothers, I'm working with Sunnis also, but I'm saying a Shia, African-American Shia, we should have at least 1 million by now. Not no regular people that can make changes. I'm telling you the truth. When this truth happened in LA in 1992, George Bush Sr. was president. He sent 100 FBI agents to LA to investigate how this thing happened. And so when I was in Iran, and Ayatollah Khomeini, he formed this committee. Because that's the legacy of Malcolm. Malcolm is the father of the Islamic Revolution in America. This was helping to carry out his legacy. And so they formed this committee, and they appointed Ayatollah Khomeini. He appointed Dr. Manafi, who was the Minister of Health at that time, to head it. But unfortunately, you know, some black organization in America, at that particular time, they wouldn't go along with the program. And matter of fact, here's the document right here. It says, and on the front page, it was the AM Journal, the biggest Islamic organization in America. On the front page of it was Muhammad Ali. Everybody that was Muslim in the world knew Muhammad Ali. It was Jeremiah Wharf Muhammad, who was the head of the American Muslim Mission, and his brother Jabir. His son got a big masjid there in Chicago. But anyway, it says, Iran says September the 14th, it has founded an international committee to bring the United States to trial because American Caucasians exploit African Americans. A great majority of the 40 million blacks in the United States live in a miserable condition and do not have the least in basic facilities for their daily living. The Iranian news agency, Islamic Republic of News Agency, said, President Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran right now, that we love him, we support him with our life. I'm going to tell you why. That we, African-American Shia Muslim, we support Iran more than you. More than you. I'm speaking directly to the hearts of you, because the heart is the seat of passion, thoughts, and emotions. I'm speaking to everybody in general, but the Iranians in particular, and I'm going to tell you why that we support Iran more than you do. I'm going to tell you why. But anyway, just briefly, I'm just doing a couple of minutes, that President Ali Khomeini is telling a Tehran prayer meeting. Biggest assembly of the Muslims in the world is at Tehran. And he said that there is a community of white people in the United States who steadily exploit the blacks in that country. Mr. Khamenei said, Iran has formed a committee for safeguarding the rights of the black Americans, and it calls on the world people to join. The committee is an official committee that aims to bring the U.S. government to trial, Mr. Khamenei said. And he said the United States propaganda machinery has deafened the ears of the world people about human rights and the rights of the citizens of the United States. So the reason why I say that we support Iran more than most of the Iranian people, when I was in Iran for Arba'in for Imam Khomeini, I was in the Lali Hotel. Everyone, most of Lali Hotel is right in the heart of Tehran. And all I wanted to, I guess, make my heart more firm and more love toward the Islamic Republic of Iran, support it with my life. That I had, it was no dream. It was not a dream, it was a voice. A voice came to me and said, because everyone was worried about Iran. What's going to happen to Iran during the death of Imam Khomeini? I bet every one of you in here that support the Islamic Republic of Iran, in your heart you felt, what's going to happen to Iran now that Imam Khomeini is dead, he's dead. What's going to happen? So, and I was worried myself, what's going to happen to Iran now Imam Khomeini is not there?
Good to hear your thoughts. in answering it is that when a politician is elected to their office, whether it's a senator, a congressman, a president, etc., these people find themselves in a position that they're running a system. It's like someone putting you in a moving bus, and you're either in the driver's seat, that's the senator, or the executive, whoever he is, and there are other responsible people in other positions, whether they're at the station or whatever. But this bus runs a course, and someone puts you in that seat. What are you going to do? Are you going to drive off the cliff? You're going to drive into a wall? What are you going to do? You have no choice. The road is in front of you. Your destination is such and such. Here's the steering wheel and the keys. What do? That's the position these individuals are in. There's a national interest. There's a red line around national interest. No one, from whatever party, from whatever background, can mess with the national interest. That's a sanam. That's an idol. No one can do anything with it. Then there's the lobby groups. The lobbies that pay money in the campaigns of these elected officials. They contributed 5 million, 55 million, 155, whatever they contributed, they come back to that person and say, remember, who gave you that money? This is what has to be done. So this person in himself or herself, they may not like what they have to do. And here's where some of us get confused. We think that, some people really are different from other people. There's this Republican and there's that Democrat. It doesn't matter. Once you put that Republican or that Democrat in that particular seat, it doesn't make a difference. Bush was there. There's not much difference between Bush and Clinton, or Bush and Obama, or Clinton and Bush Sr. Does anyone find that there's a significant difference there between them, among them? Nothing. Why? Because they have to play a role. There's a role for them to play, and they play that role. Then, when we come to we, the Muslims here in the United States, it's been many years now, we've gone through many election cycles. And I think I've mentioned this more than a few times. Our voice is not going to be heard if we ourselves can't put our minds together and present for the American public a program, a political program. And that political program has to make sense. It's not necessary that we have Islamic words in the political program. If you want to explain to the addiction population in America that we're against addiction, we are against alcohol abuse, or substance abuse, we are against heroin and cocaine and all of this. There's smart ways of saying that. But at the end, what we are saying, فهل أنتم فاجتنبوا. The end of these ayat, this is Islamic language. We don't have to put it in Islamic language. أمرت أن أخاطب الناس على قدر عقولهم. This is attributed to the Prophet and attributed to Imam Ali. I have been ordered to communicate with people at the level of their thinking. Okay, if the communication is going to be with people who understand certain political language, we can phrase our Islamic ideas in their certain political language. None of us have even thought about doing something like that. We have social scientists in the United States. We have professors, we have researchers, we have plenty of these. We have those with Islamic backgrounds and those with no. We can put them together and have something Islamic going for us. We don't have anything like that. No one's going to pay attention to us. However, there may be some attempts here and there in certain counties or in certain regions to, lobby for a certain candidate and say the Muslims are going to vote for so-and-so. Well, if the Muslims themselves don't have a type of program, when that person comes to office, they say, oh, thank you very much for voting for me. That's the end of it. Because he's going to find that he has in front of him demands. There are certain groups, certain lobbies, certain interest groups that have their priorities, and they want to see these priorities moving in the political process. But if we don't have any political priorities, if we don't have a critical mass of Muslims, if we don't have a critical mass, we're just going to remain like we are, individuals here and there, wishfully going from election cycle to election cycle. Look at this election cycle. You've heard the candidates, you've heard what they've been saying. Whatever they say, remember, just go back 4 years, 8 years to when Obama was running for president. The word that he used like a mantra was change. Remember? We can, yes, we can. Change, change. Every speech, the word change was mentioned in it at least a dozen times. That's the anemic speech. In the robust speech, he must have mentioned the word change 50 or 60 times. What type of change have you seen? He said he's going to close Guantanamo. Guantanamo wasn't closed. He said he's going to do a lot of things. He's not going to. Let me tell you this. I was at a lecture about almost a year ago. Jeremiah Wright, who was the person in the church that used to give the sermon when Obama was attending in Chicago. He came to Howard University in Washington, D.C. I guess it was about a year ago. And someone asked him at the end, he said, what's your comment? I don't have the exact word, but this was the gist of the question. What's your comment or your evaluation of Obama? Now this is the pastor or the preacher or whatever of the church in which Obama used to attend. And Jeremiah Wright's answer to him is, Obama is AIPAC. Those were his. He didn't. So one person in the audience didn't understand what's AIPAC. Could you explain that to me? And then Jeremiah Wright said, AIPAC. These are Obama's words, verbatim. Jeremiah Wright is quoting Obama. He said, I'm not saying this. Obama said it. I am AIPAC. Now, does that mean that he inside himself is very comfortable with this relation? I don't know. But that doesn't really matter, does it? When you have to make a decision and AIPAC comes down on you and says, this is the decision we want you to make. Even though AIPAC will put a smoke screen of differences with Obama to mislead people, but at the end of the day, he's doing that foreign policy objective. That is, you cannot, no one is permitted in the executive or in the judiciary or in the legislature, in these three branches of government, no one is permitted to take issue with Israel. Cynthia McKinney, and once again, I'm sure she knows this better than anyone else because I think most of you know the way she thinks and her experience with diplomacy and politics and elections and all of this. Cynthia McKinney, when she won the vote there, when she became the representative from the state of Georgia, she received a letter, like all congressmen receive. They receive a letter from AIPAC, and they have to sign on to that letter saying that they will support Israel. She refused, this is the only person I know in Congress who refused to sign that letter. And because of that, she was not re-elected. She went for, the following, she wanted to run for office, and they worked their political magic, and she couldn't win the elections. Now, if she's invited to go somewhere, she has to go through 1,000 loops, legal and social and political and all of this, to see whether she can make it to a certain activity that someone may invite her to. And I know this from experience. So the bottom line is, I know I'm taking a little more time, just give me one more minute. The bottom line is that we have a duopoly of power in the U.S., the Democrats and the Republicans. Look, they won't permit a competitor from with another stripe, with another color. They won't permit it. You saw how far Ralph Nader went. He's running for president. There was a debate, and they wouldn't even let this person attend the debate. The police were out there. This was somewhere in Boston, I guess. One of the Harvard or MIT or one of them. They wouldn't, if you can remember, if you can recall that, they wouldn't let him in. And this person's running for president, and he just wants to sit in the crowd and listen to the two speakers, the Democrat and the Republican speak, and you don't let him in? Where's the freedom? Where's the liberty? Where's the, all of this stuff that we hear in the media? So I guess, I hope I tried to answer your question.
On the question of integration, I'd like to read a short statement that I have here. This is something that we dealt with when we came back to the country over 40 years ago from being in exile. Many of the leaders of the Black Panther Party and others were in exile from America and in Algeria. And we had three types of groups, and you've heard of the two of them. The Martin Luther King line, integration, developing from within the society. Then that was the Malcolm X line. That was the line of Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and then eventually Pan-Islam. That was the line. There was another group of Black nationalists that they actually speak about it in Howard a little while ago, but I didn't go into it in detail. It was the third group that hardly anyone knows anything about it except those people that were really active in that movement. That is the so-called supporters of the various movements. Let's call it the criminal element. We were part of a group that believed that America was founded on crime, and the only way you're going to get your freedom is to become a better criminal. And we believe in control of all crime in the black neighborhood. And some of us went out to do that. And some of us also, one of our biggest drug houses was on 73rd Avenue and East 14th, and right behind it was the headquarters of the Black Panther Party in East Oakland. To make a long story short, we believe that Italians and nobody else got their freedom in America by going through the processes that they have set up. So we supported them with money. That's why when the police found out that some of us were not just Negroes riding up and down the street in big cars and wearing fancy clothes, that's when they cracked down. And personally, when I went into exile, I went to Algeria. Now, why would a criminal go to Algeria? At that time, that was one of the frontline states. And after that, we moved to Tanzania. Tanzania was a frontline state. That means the part of Africa that was not free yet or decolonized, they had frontline states, like in Dar es Salaam, the headquarters of SWAPO, Frelimo, ANC, all of them were there. And they considered African Americans as a liberation movement. Okay, but still being kind of criminal-minded to believe in our pipe dream of changing America through crime, I went to South America and started a cocaine smuggling operation. The only African-American cartel from before, from now and after. You don't find none of them in history. Okay, it was to make money to support the liberation movement. But the liberation movement kind of slowed down. And so we came back to this country. When we came back to this country, we came faced with certain realities. And I would like to read you something, because this is on resistance, right? This is supposed to be on resistance. And I'd like to read you the headline from an article called Leaderless Resistance, and then I'll get into the answer. This is to answer your question. Leaderless resistance is a phenomenon, is a phantom cell structure. It is a so-called resistance strategy in which small independent groups, that is covert cells including individuals, solo cells, challenge an established institution such as a law, economic system, social order, government, etc. Leaderless resistance can encompass anything from nonviolent protest and civil disobedience to vandalism, terrorism, and other violent activity. Leaderless resistance cells like bi-directional vertical command links and operate without hierarchical command. While it lacks a central command, the concept does not necessarily imply lack of cooperation. Given the simplicity of the strategy as well as the fact that it is difficult to stamp out leaderless resistance, has been employed by a wide range of movements, from the animal liberation movement, radical environmentalist movements, as well as government cooperation, da 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 da. In other words, this is from Louis Beam. Louis Beam used to be a white nationalist. They started white citizens councils, Ku Klux Klan, militia, patriot movement, and some of them evolved similar to black people. Like we started off as black nationalist groups, then human rights movements, right? Then Islam, and now we're for universal liberation. The white groups also, they started out as anti-Negro, anti-black, mainly anti-anybody, and of course anti-Jews. But some of them evolved. And when you listen to the Patriot movement now, the Patriot movement does not talk about just anti-black. In fact, they don't use it at all. It talks about anti-Zionist. They call the American government ZOG, Zionist Occupied Government. Now I'm going to speed up and get to the answer to the question. When we came back in America, we had to go through our history and research our past and possible future to find out what is the best policy that you're going to use in America. Now, some people use one or the other, and we use both. Now, white people arriving at leaderless resistance is kind of new, last 10, 15 years. We use both systems. One is to work above board, like all the conferences we have and all the, get-togethers. That's working above board, because we learned that you can't get anywhere working underground except blow up a building or cause some minor temporary fitna. So we decided to work above ground. That meant all the conferences we've attended all over the world and all over America during the first 10 years of the revolution. I think I stayed on the road almost all of that 10 years, going to one place after another, if any of the old timers remember. That's working above board. Each policy has its own its own baggage. Number one, we have learned that in America, if you're going to do right, you will be thoroughly infiltrated by the United States government, and that's the way it is, and we learned ain't nothing you can do about it. So if you're going to work above board, you're going to be saturated with United States government agents. Our literature say that our group is only 80% government agents, but we really believe it's like 95, even 98. You're in America. That's what we did. We did that from study, from research. But then we did something that they didn't know nothing about. Leaderless resistance is a type of resistance to where there is no specific leader. People can find out about whether thinking is through the internet, through some flyer they might pick up, but there is no leader. It's called leaderless resistance. Why is that done? Why has it helped us? It's because the work we did above board, we have received maximum. There's nobody in the United States history, from our research, that have received as much 24/7 confrontation with the government, but we survived. But it can curtail all of your surface, and it can affect it. What it does is it improves your behavior. It makes you learn more about the system. It gives you more discipline. It gives you the ability to fight huge numbers. That's why we have this little CD called Project Imam Hussein in America. What that means is you're going to have to be like Imam Hussein. If you're going to work above board, you just got to be ready. You go for it. You don't come up with nothing, no jive, as we call it. You get on out there and you go for it. That's what we do, above board. You have to be able to pay the costs. But how have we survived that? We've survived because we have friends that the government knows nothing about. I can't even visit my friends. If I go anywhere, in fact, and most of you, I haven't called you anywhere. You go to a city where you are, I don't call you. I don't visit you because it'll put heat on you. It'll put tons of heat on you. So leaderless resistance is that you resist the system, you resist the government, and people pick up where the movement is through osmosis. There's articles and certain writings about what's going on with us. Our friends can read it and act on it. But they can't call me on the phone and say, oh, you've been having a lot of fitna. I heard you got arrested the other day. I heard the police brutalized you at Santa Rita. And da-da-da-da-da. They can't call me on the phone, because they call me on the phone, somebody's they're going to be right back on to the original question that you asked. Should we integrate into the system? Study impact, study Islam, Islamic Society of North America, study CARE. I've heard them all on the radio. I talk with them personally. Those people are abominable in their approach. Their approach has allowed the government to do what it does. In other words, all of us know and believe that the government does and the Zionists do things like 9/11, all these killings of little children in schools, right? And all these shootings, San Bernardino and all that. That stuff, you got to study how it happens. What is the purpose of it? You would think, why would Hillary Clinton come right out and say, hey, we got to get guns out of the people? Well, America has had guns ever since it's been here. And America won its freedom from Great Britain because of Minutemen. All Americans had guns. When I grew up, and when you go, everybody have guns. They're all over the house. Why wasn't there killings all the time? I'll wrap it up. This is an important question. I'll be there in just a minute. Here's the thing. We didn't shoot each other because we had certain values. Now, America is going down. When you said Mark America, tell the truth. America is finished in prestige, in wealth, and ability to move. America is done for. That's a finished fact. It knows it. The Zionists know it. So what they want to do is they want to take guns out of white people's hands. Because white people kill the police, not black people. You study most of when all the gangsters is on the corner and the police come, the Negroes throw their guns under they hide their guns. Not white folks, white nationalists. You come up on them, study all the killings. They pull out, bam, bam, they blast the police with the same training, the same technique. So America is failing. All of this killings all over, shootings in movie theaters is done by the system to take guns out of the hands of white people. Because They don't want the citizens to be able to defend themselves against the government. And all the white people know it. They know that they're the target. That's why no matter what happens, you can't get a gun bill through Congress. You kill all the children in LA, it won't make no difference. They ain't giving up their guns because they know that the Second Amendment was put there not to protect yourself from your neighbor, but from the government. They're called Jeffersonians. They say, white people, they said, if we don't have a revolution, from Thomas Jefferson, 1803, if we don't have a revolution every 20 years, we're going to become corrupt. The white people in America, who are, they're not militias, they're patriots. And I'm trying to answer your question, should we work in the system? I'll just stop what I was saying and go to that. Look, Ikna, you ought to hear him on TV. I heard him on Press TV, not Press TV, on Press Club last week. No, this week, the other day. They don't challenge the system. They justify the system. They don't say killing and all the people killed in France, Hebo, whoever it is, and the guy leaves his ID there with a picture on it, leaves his driver's license on the front seat of a car, right? It's insanity. When you go pull a robbery, ask anybody in here. When you go pull a robbery or a shooting, you strip down. You don't wear no clothes. I wouldn't wear no shalwar kameez or nothing like that. I wouldn't wear no tailor-made suit because it would say where the tailor is that made that suit. Isn't that right? You strip down. You take sure there's no identifying marks on you, on your car, or anything. Why do all these mass killers, they find the ID on the front seat? Oh, this one dropped a cell phone right in the garbage can in front of the police department with a yellow string hanging out of the garbage can. And it said, he just made a call to terrorist number 2, and terrorist number 2, when they checked that, called terrorist number 3. Don't you get tired of that? Right? Don't you get tired of that? Working within the system. And I'll finish, I'll close. In the black days, when that was moving toward the close, a lot of people said, well, we can't beat the system, we might as well work within. And those Negroes got in the system, and they stuck a rope around all of our necks, and they moved up in the hills, and they keep count on us up to the day, and they sent us all to the penitentiary, and they shoot us down just like white folks did. Only thing is, they're black, and they work within the system. The worst thing we can do, we should have confidence in who we are. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Everything, people say it look bad, we're in the best situation we've ever been in right now. I'll talk about it tomorrow, I haven't got time, because he's been flagging me down. No, we got to have, yeah, okay. No, I wouldn't work in the system. Stay away from them people. They're going to cut your throat. That's all.
We operate above the border.
We do both.
We are operating above
We're operating above board here now. But there's other, everything is recorded. They can call. In fact, I call the FBI sometimes. I say, hey man, you guys got the wrong idea. No, I have. I've called them a couple of times. They had a bombing. I just have to tell this. They had a bombing in, just a minute. They had a bombing in Oklahoma. And they were talking about some guy from Georgia did it. So I called the FBI, and I guess my number pulled up. They said, we don't want to talk to you. I said, I called the tip line. You got a tip line, and it says, I want to call you and give you a tip. We don't want to talk to you. I said, look, man, you got a tip line. I see it on the highway. It's on the TV, and I'm calling to give you a tip. It wasn't no Jordanian. I said it was white folks blew up their building. They blew it up on the 19th. They blew it up where the children were. I said, have you killed any children lately? He thought about it. He didn't say, but they had killed those white kids and black kids there down in Waco. Isn't that right? it was on the same day that was. I said the white people did it. And then, of course, a couple of days later, it came out that white people that did it. I'm trying to say is, brothers and sisters, leave that system alone. And let's do for ourselves. We have the ability. I'm not against the people. I'm saying that we are pro-Islamic and pro-Muslim.
Thank you, thank you. Go ahead.
My question is, how can we speaking to my generation of the American-born Shia Muslim to immigrant parents, how can we establish a culture of resistance that perhaps transcends that of our parents?
Could I answer that too? Just part of it? I don't want to be greedy. I just want. Have y'all anybody heard of a headquarters? Oh, have y'all heard of headquarters here in LA? Let's go back 10 years ago. Anybody heard of headquarters? You heard of headquarters. Anybody else? Headquarters. Headquarters. What was that? Headquarters was the best Shia center they've ever had in LA. Right over by on Vinton, right, not far from UCLA. We started that some years ago, and the brothers, first they started with an apartment, and they'd have dua komil. Then they opened an apartment upstairs, then they apartment downstairs. Pretty soon it was a whole community. What the kids at UCLA did was they invited all the Shia students from all over the country that came to USA, UCLA. They may be 50-50 Muslims. You know how the kids are in America. And they would come to do a community. Pretty soon they was functional. There's all students doing this. Functional, practical, active Muslims. And what did the government do? The government didn't like that. They came out and the government was challenging high school kids because it went all the way down. Pretty soon we had high school kids. And pretty soon most of the programs in this area with youth was related to those young people. In other words, if you start activities, let the young people run it, they will come up with the solutions themselves. That's what I say about young people. Y'all know what you're dealing with. You know what you're up against, right? And the only thing we would do is come in every now and then and give a little advice. Like we had another community around the corner, Al-Sabakun. It was UCLA also. These were Sunnis, 89, 90% of them was the police, and I knew it then. But what you gonna do? I talk about how you run an organization when you know everybody in is the police. You can do it. I have an article, we did long studies. What are you gonna do in America? We call it strategic management under conditions of repression. How are you gonna manage in a society that you're going to be targeted, maybe killed, infiltrated, sabotaged? That's normal. So how are you gonna work? So that's our job to figure that out. That's our job here. That's our responsibility. Somewhere people in Iraq, they have to figure out how do we work this situation out in Iraq. That's their job. In America, it's our job here to work out policies, programs, and systems that solves the problem in America. And the secret is get started. Opposition will come, you overcome that opposition, you're a little smarter. Then you get better and better. The only way to lose is that you don't get started. But if you get started, you're going to get smarter and better. Your nafs will become trained. Your attitude, you become audacious. You take Imam Hussein serious. You don't take it as just a ceremony. You take America, well, he's going to get Yazid, we're in America. So we got to be audacious like Imam Hussein. Isn't that right? Right? Yeah, I'm saying is you will develop. You have the ideology already. So we just say get started. You'll solve the problem. Brothers and sisters, if we don't have confidence in Iran now, then we'll never get it. Iran will be 37 years old during the first part of the revolution, we was happy. Oh, this is the second anniversary, man. We done made it 2 years, 3. This is the first part of it. Then, after the war, after Saddam Hussein, after the Taliban, look at how Allah has treated Iran. Now, you don't have to be perfect for things to be perfect. Saddam Hussein was responsible for over 1 million people to die, but the United States came and got rid of Saddam Hussein. Iran didn't lift a finger, right? Then the Taliban, they killed 12 people in Mazar Sharif, 12 Iranian diplomats, right? 2 got back. And at first, Iran put 235,000 people on the border ready to invade. The Raqqa said no. A few years later, the Americans came and got rid of their own creation. Isn't that right? The Taliban. Iran, they've been trying to get rid of Iran. They've been killing everything. And the safest and the most peaceful country, Republic of Iran. Right? And no matter what you think about the people, their management style and what have you, one white man said that if I were to look at the world from outer space, there would only be 2 powers on earth. One is Iran and the other is America. In the last few months, remember, you don't negotiate with equals. When the Americans defeated the Japanese and the Germans, it was unconditional surrender. When they negotiated with Iran, you negotiate with equals. That didn't mean to, Mother Muhammad. Didn't mean to hold, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm finished. Don't worry, I'm finished. They negotiate with equals. You do not negotiate with people you defeat. They asked me in Iran, what do you think about negotiations? Says it doesn't make any matter. You won already once they negotiate with you. Now, before it was Iran all by itself. Right now, if you look at the strategic lineup, the teams, the Takfiris and all of this, Saudi Arabia has helped develop a perfect situation for you right now. And I'll close by saying this. Number one, we used to holler about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen. Saudi Arabia is going broke. Saudi Arabia is the biggest fool in the world, created Daesh and everybody else. And the world is against Saudi Arabia. We spend days, months, years, trying to convince people against Saudi Arabia. Right? Now, Saudi Arabia has committed historical, political, and economic suicide. Right? The richest Arab country bombing the poorest Arab country. Right? Dropping the oil prices. I'm telling you, and look, and the world knows it, you just don't know it. Because I was asking, oh Allah, help me with a sign to show me where we at right now. And they see it. A few weeks ago, the count stopped at 22 million in Karbala. Isn't that right? 22 million. They said that it kept going up. It went from 26. By the time I was getting Juma, somebody said, no, it's 26. Wherever it is, I'm going to just tell you something. The Shia have already arrived. No, this is important, but you're not paying attention. I'll finish. The Shia have arrived. The Shia are ready right now. And we have arrived in a way that is non-offensive. There has been no killings and bombings in response to all this fitna all over the world. Isn't that right? The world is now sympathizing with Iran, sympathizing with Shias. And I used to tell brothers years ago, and I'll close with this. I said, you got to leave your Shias alone and stop scratching them, because you keep scratching them, you're going to hit blood. And the whole thing is on martyrdom. So you got to leave them alone. You leave them alone, they're going to be nice and friendly, no problem. But if you keep on, you're going to hit blood. That's what those millions of people in Karbala was there for. That the whole Shia community is not prepared for war, but whatever comes next, it's already prepared for it. That's why I said, oh, this old joker done messed up now. Doesn't everybody tell the truth? Everybody ready. It don't make no difference how it comes. The community is ready. Then the dummies followed up with Sheikh Zakzaki. And that unified Arabs and Christians because he's friendly with all. I'm telling you, the United States, the Zionists, Saudi Arabia has produced this wonderful environment. Don't you worry about Iran. If they ain't been able to get rid of it in all of this time, it don't look like, I'm not going to worry about it. So if Allah protects you all your life, you're going to get 80 years old and say, Allah, you still got me covered? No, you wouldn't do that. This is the way it is with Iran. Brothers and sisters, like Brother Mujahid is saying now, it is time. This plan, global strategy, is evolutionary and it is falling into the proper position and place at the proper time. And it is done in a way that nobody can blame. Now, I close with this. Remember the mean old angry Shias always bombing and killing? That ain't no more. It's the old mean Salafis. The mean old Daesh. Right? The mean old Boko Haram. And everybody know who created them, right? So guess who's the good guys in the world history right now? The nice Shia community. Why the Saudis have 2 million people there and hundreds of people die, and it's set up for that, and they have 25 million people in Karbala, and it's not set up for it. And it ain't nobody, not one fight, no fight over a beer bottle or nothing. Everybody just in love and ready. What they were saying, Labaika, loud, y'all was saying. They're ready. That's what this thing about. Everybody is ready. Already. You just don't know it. Because y'all worried about your bank accounts and your money and stuff. You know what I mean? What kids, college your kids are going to. You're worried about that and you're missing the point. We're not missing it. We know this is it. And we ain't worried about Iran. At all. Iran is on the road and so are the rest of the Muslims. And everything they did in Iraq turned out, at least you got 65%. It's better than nothing, isn't that right? Better than Saddam Hussein. That, at least it's a little fitna. It won't be that long. The last thing is this, the lineup. Before, everybody was in the lineup against Iran, right? Now, we said Russia Aziz, that's just a joke. You know, Russians are Russians. But we needed that technology. We needed that technology. They need us. And the dumb Americans are dumb. They pick on everybody all at the same time. Right? So they're going to pick on Russia and Ukraine, and we're going to sanction you. So you're going to sanction us. Oh, okay, fine. So pretty soon they start looking for people who to line up with. And we're going to put some more missiles on your border. We're going to put missiles on our border. Hey, Iran, y'all need some of these 300 new super duper this stop the Americans if they fly over. Hey, what else can we give you? Oh, loan to you, whatever you like. And in the meantime, let's line up with the strategic alliance. Iraq, from Baghdad, Iraq, Soviet Union, Syria, and Iran. That's approved. The other team, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and all those bums. I didn't mean to, but I just couldn't sit still. So y'all overlooked my.
I wouldn't be able to comment with regards to any third party being ever able to partake in any elections. But on a more general note, whether it's a third party or a person who would want to be in one of these parties that are there, the Republican or the Democratic Party, and if they were to want to run, and they would take the position of not supporting the state of Israel, then definitely on a presidential level at least, they would not be able to get to that position in the current political system that we're in. And I think the example that Imam Al-Asi was mentioning of the individual in the Congress and them not signing the AIPAC letter, whatever that is, I guess he had further details on that, is a clear example of that even at the level of Congress, it's not going to be possible if someone's not going to be joining, supporting AIPAC, that they would be at that capacity involved in government. But I think if, I don't know, Musa, you want to add anything to that?
I swore about size.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. We're going to wrap it up in maybe 5 minutes, so go ahead. Do we have any other questions? Yes, we have a question.
How do you think, as young people, without like trying to be too like politicized because we're still like kind of at a young age, we can kind of like help our non-Muslim friends understand what we're trying to do and just kind of increase our religious involvement while not shunning everyone else.
Alhamdulillah.
I don't think.
Go ahead.
I'll just start, and then if you wanted to. I don't think this is about shunning people away, shunning everyone away. I don't think the message of any of the panelists here is that we would want to shun people away. We're actually, I think the message that people are giving from here, from the panel, is that we want to help people. And so we have friends, we have the average American that is within the system and is being impacted in the way they are. And we are there to try to help and support. The message that is taken from this panel should not be we're pushing everyone away from that. What I would recommend for all young people to try to do in order to understand better what to say, when to say, whether it's regarding religion, and having that conversation with people, and being able to have an effective conversation in that regard with people of their age, is to study religion, study the political context that we're in. I think we need a lot of information before we can effectively get involved with that. Otherwise, some of the information we think we're sharing information with people. It's not, whether it's religious information or political information, when we say things, when we don't say things, it's not going to be correct information or said at the right time in an effective way. So what I would encourage is taking that time and trying to study further religion and also what's going on in the world and what's going on in this country, having information on that. And in addition to that, as young people gaining further or having and allowing that courage to manifest in us in going out and talking to people. One of the things that I think the Shia community, the immigrant and second generation communities in this country, we've not been able to do very effectively is to be able to connect with and communicate with the indigenous people in this country. And we don't very comfortably have conversations with regards to important matters such as religion and politics with people. We're afraid to shy away from it, and we don't do that very well. So I think we need to get involved with that, talk to people, learn how it's done, make our mistakes while we're still young, and gain experience. Inshallah,